Welcome back. You're listening to Home Wizards, where we love to, make you feel good about the space you call home and improve your home and improve your life. I'm Cindy Dole.
Hey, I'm Eric Stroman.
And I love a pot that is going to make a plant just look like it's got the perfect outfit on. That's how I look at it. When you are choosing a container for your pot, let's say it's for your outdoor container garden, or maybe even for your indoor plants, there really is an art to picking the perfect pot. Let's say if you had blue eyes, you would pick the perfect blue shirt to complement your eyes. Or if you had red hair, you'd go with the perfect, whatever it is, outfit to really accent your hair. And so think of it that way, as now the pot is going to make the plant feel like it's got basically a star-studded outfit on.
Yeah, there's no question. When I look at beautiful pottery with the deep glosses and the amazing
glazes
that they have, I mean, it makes such a huge difference. And you can use the accent color in the flower or the different tones of the greens and the vibrant colors and bring that up in the pot. You're right. It's beautiful. I love it. I love it. And you see that in Mexico like crazy.
I know.
Some great stuff.
It really is art. And there's books on this. I mean, there's great, some fun photography out there to inspire you. In fact, you probably could go to Pinterest and see some of the examples or other websites out there, including our site. But, I think that I've done both ways. So one time I was out looking at pots and plants, and I was inspired by this set of turquoise glazed pots. And they're known as the strawberry pots.
Okay.
And they're the kind of pots where they have all these little pockets all around them. It's basically because that's the best way to grow strawberries.
Oh, wait, like they have little things
lips.
that come, little lips. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so I was just so inspired by, it was like a mama and a papa and a baby. It was like basically 3 different heights of pots.
Wait a minute. Cindy, pots can't have babies.
Anyway, so it was 3 different heights of pots with the containers all looking gorgeous, and they were turquoise. They were glazed. They are a glazed ceramic, and so that was my beginning of inspiration, was to go with that and pick plants to fit the pot.
Here's the problem with the pots for me. I get crazy and I want to buy like 30 of them because I love the collections of colors, and they can be really expensive. Some of these garden stores, man, they really feature them. They put them right out on the end caps.
Sucks you in there, doesn't it?
Sucks you right in, and I go crazy when I see them.
I know.
And then I end up buying just the container with the plant in it, and it's the plastic ghetto-looking thing. It looks awful. Mm-hmm. But even if you have a pot that's beautiful, you can just insert those plastic containers in there for a while if you don't want to get into replanting, and it dresses it up even better, doesn't it? It does. And especially if you find like you're assembling an outfit, if you can go with the right colors that accent the pot, or the pot accents the plant. Basically, you want them to kind of be simpatico. So I thought we'd talk about how do you choose a container, because everyone's into container gardening. I am. You are, right? And it's a fun, easy way. Especially if you live in an apartment or a condominium.
I know.
Have a balcony, limited space. It's a great way to go.
So first, before you start thinking about how it looks, it's essential to just first think about what kind of what are you doing in terms of a gardener? Are you just looking for something to be decorative on the side? Are you looking for something that you're not going to be watering it very much? I mean, some of these basics are going to help you also decide what kind of container to choose.
Yeah, and also, we talked about the last couple of weeks, too, different types of gardening as it pertains to containers where you don't have weep holes in the bottom of the pot and you're using the charcoal layering and all those devices almost like a terrarium. So you want to be obviously specific to your point. Are you going to have traditional drainage in this thing, or are you going to have a pot with no holes or holes on the bottom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're referring to dish gardens, and that was where we were talking about instead of having, especially for indoor gardens, although you could use it for a patio, instead of having the traditional container where you drill a hole, which is 9 times out of 10 the ideal way to go. But for a dish garden, instead of just having soil and water then draining, because you don't want your plant to be sitting and suffocating in water.
Right.
This way, we talked about how you layer with charcoal and stones, and then it creates a barrier from the water, so the plant isn't ever just sitting in the water.
Right.
But in terms of just choosing the right container, certainly you want to think of not only the beauty of it, but also your budget, and then the best one that's going to suit your plant too, because certain containers not only look better for your plant, but some of them will also just hold moisture better than others, And so something just to think about. And, some of the pots might have a couple of basic flaws. They're going to crack if they're left outside in certain parts of the country where the temperatures drop below freezing, especially if you leave soil in them, and they're going to break. And then the thicker walled pots, they sometimes are double walled. They're going to be more rugged, and they're a bit more expensive, but they're also really heavy when they're filled with the potting mix. So just those are some of like the basic things to think about.
And there's also design sensibility that goes along with what you choose. For example, if you live in a English Tudor style home and you've got a lot of Mexican pottery that's very round and vibrant colors, it may not necessarily work with the design sensibility that you have. So you definitely want to keep in mind kind of where you are architecturally and then select your pots from there.
Or not. You might want to
Wait a minute, you're going crazy and going really?
No, you could do that, but if you have the fantasy of wanting to be in Mexico and you aren't, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I see.
It can
take creating an area, if you will.
A staycation.
Really?
You know that.
Well, I kind of do.
But I mean, so you totally can do anything you want.
All right.
Little honey lamb.
All right, then.
So, how big, what's it made of? So those are some of the first things, size in most cases. The pots that are bigger in terms of the width and the volume are going to be better. Like with vegetables, the depth of the container is as important, if not more important, as is the width. The depth, think depth. And then you can grow quite a few carrots or radishes in a narrow container, but the container must be at least deep enough to accommodate the length of that plant as it matures. I mean, just like getting a puppy.
Sure.
Just like getting a puppy.
I know a little about that.
It's going to grow up.
Yes, it is. By the way, when I take Forrest the puppy out of the cage at night to go to the bathroom.
You mean the crate?
The crate.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Crate cage.
Whatever.
He has grown so much that I am literally rendered help. It's like I'm carrying some 50-pound man down the stairs.
But he's indebted to you for life.
Yes, he better be.
A half whiskey or wine barrel is also a large, inexpensive container that can also hold quite a few veggies. It's a great idea for a container. I mean, in one of those whiskey barrels, you can get 10 heads of lettuce in there.
Oh, that's amazing.
And 10 bush bean plants, or maybe 1 or 2 small tomato plants, and then 4 or 5 small cucumber varieties. So think of purchasing these containers at the garden centers and nurseries if that's what you're trying to do. Like you're trying to create your little, maybe 3 of them in an area, and now you have your mini vegetable edible space. That's a good way to go because you're going to have the depth, the height.
And also, if you're going to do trailing plants that want to come down and hang over, you obviously have to have a taller pot.
Well, and that's why I love these strawberry plant containers because, again, with those pockets, and what we did with our turquoise glazed ceramic pots is I chose to get succulents. So when you think of the turquoise, I thought of different shades of blues and greens, and then a pop of purple. Oh. And I have succulents all planted in these pockets on the sides.
Oh, that's pretty.
And then a couple of them, shooting up from the center.
Sure.
And then they cascade. A couple of them are like ground cover succulents that droop down to give you that kind of a waterfall look.
Mm-hmm. Now, in California for years when I was working on these big spec homes that were Spanish style, we would go to Mexico and make these runs and buy these clay pots, right? A lot of times they're not, they leach water a little bit. So what you do in that situation is you can coat the inside with cold tar compound that you would use in roofing, and that'll give you that waterproof element on the inside.
That's
so
idea.
if you find something that you love and it seems too porous, you can always amend it by doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the clay pots, I mean, while they're inexpensive, they can be totally. They lose the water pretty quickly.
That's right.
And there are also some self-watering containers that you can look for out there. A especially useful type of pot is a self-watering container, and it's basically one that's made of rubberized plastic, and it has a false bottom there, and then it has a reservoir under the soil that can be filled with water.
Oh.
So the plant is not ever really sitting in the water. It just has access to some of the water that's going to then get back up through that little hole, through the reservoir itself. And then you can pour water into a pipe at the top of the pot or through a hole in the side of the pot. And then this wick will then draw the water up from the reservoir into the dry soil, so you don't have to water as frequently.
That's kind of a great idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something to think about. Again, is before you invest in these plants, think of the right kind of container that's not only going to look beautiful, that's going to complement the flowers and the edibles or whatever. So, for instance, let's say you have leafy crops. You don't need much root space in those, but they do need some room to spread. So you might want to consider a shallow, rectangular container. For some of those more shallow, leafy type of lettucey kind of crops that you might have, right? And then also look for bargain pots. You can shop for some really good used pots at a fraction of their price, of course, at garage sales.
Yeah,
and
boy,
flea
I
markets.
found some great stuff at garage sales.
Yeah,
because people have so many of them on the side of the house, sometimes they don't know what to do with them. So you can find great prices.
And I always love them when you think about these pots to cluster them, several of them at a time, Anyway, green kitchens is something that you might be thinking about as you're walking around your kitchen. It's not just about recycling. There's some other very simple things that you can do to be feeling green. I was at the store called The Sprouts just the other day, and it had like green hand dishwater soap, for when you're right there at the sink. And you think, well, how am I doing that? So I get that. Anyway, listening to Home Wizards, Eric Stromer, Cindy Dole. We love to improve your home and improve your life. More on that after this.